Hi everyone, this is Rusty Dog, and this is going to be a video about Elite Dangerous 2.4, in particular the 2.402 patch, which I will from now on refer to as the O2 patch, or the nerf patch. And I want to talk about what I consider to be the current state of Elite Dangerous as a whole, and how the O2 patch has affected things, what I think of that. I'm going to be talking quite a bit about Quince, and also mentioning some of the good stuff and some of the not so good stuff, but the not so good stuff is probably all going to get mentioned beforehand anyway. So there's not going to be any gameplay here. I was going to have my second account up and running, but I can't because I'm in a precarious place in space at the moment, and I can't just have my ship floating now while I'm talking because it's using up precious fuel that I need, and you know, by the end of the video it's probably going to be, it might run down to a level that I won't be able to get back into space. Anyway, you'll see that on a video one day. Okay, so I want to clear up some things first because I am going to talk about Quince, and obviously that brings up the controversial topic of exploits. I'm going to try and do that in a calm and reasonable way, because I do have my own opinion on gameplay that is where people are exploiting. So I'm going to cover that, and I want you to bear in mind that anything I say in this video is purely my own opinion. I'm not stating anything other than that, unless they are just obvious facts anyway. And I'm not telling anybody how they should play the game, but I'm going to mention that as well in a little while. And yeah, I just want you to try and be reasonable about the whole thing, and especially if you're going to post a comment on the video. I do want to hear your views, especially if they're different to mine. In fact, more so. If your opinions differ to mine, please let me hear them. But you know, let's keep it civil. So, where to start? Well, I think we'll start by clearing up a couple of things. What is an exploit? Well, it can be defined many ways, but in the context of Elite Dangerous, the way I define an exploit, and I hope I'm defining it correctly then, is that an exploit means to take advantage of unintended game mechanics for personal gain. That's what I think it is. Taking advantage of unintended game mechanics for personal gain. So then you can debate, well, what's unintended and what's intended? How do you know which is which? Some of it's pretty obvious. Certainly in Quince, the local passenger missions, when they existed, was unintended. The spawning of the bases, multiple spawning of the bases in the same place, that was unintended. I mean, it's clear. There's no question. So, that kind of thing. If we look at a later one, I've been reading on the forums a lot about Raya, which was, or is, a system that was generating a lot of high-paying passenger missions, providing that you were, I suspect you had to be allied and that you were ranked up pretty high in the game in order to get the amounts that were being quoted. And it seemed legitimate, really. You know, you look at it, you got passenger missions, and they're offering you this and this and this. But when you take a closer look, even though it's not strictly... I was going to say that it's not strictly exploiting or exploitative gameplay, but just thinking about it right now, if it was the... Yeah. Because it's so difficult, because the mission system right now, the mission boards, are kind of all over the place in their rewards. You've got low rewards for massive distances, and you have high rewards for short distances. And then I kind of question, I think, is this something that Frontier intended? You know, that they would pay 3, 4, 5 million to travel to the next system, a few light years away, and then they would pay maybe 400,000-500,000 to go to bloody Colonia, which is 22,000 light years away. I have to hope that that isn't intentional. And also the amount of missions that were generated, or are generated, but it's a passenger board, so you expect that to happen. And also the fact that Frontier have increased the amount of missions that appear on bulletin boards these days, sorry, the mission boards these days, then yeah, there's more going to appear there, so there's probably more chance to make money. If you have, say, you know, a beluga or you know, something along those lines that can take a lot of cabins. Now, I wouldn't class Raya as exploitative gameplay in the same way as I would Quince. I think there's a marked difference between the two, but I do see that Raya was perhaps not something the devs were after, because I can't remember what the amounts were that people were saying, but it was over 100 million an hour or something like that, 120 or something. And that means if you stick at it for 10, 12 hours, you could potentially probably make 1 billion credits. And given the price of ships and commodities and other mission rewards, I'm not sure Frontier wanted commanders to be able to inflate their bank balances by 1 billion credits a day. I might be wrong, but I don't see that as intended gameplay. So that on its own would make Raya somewhat of an exploit. But it doesn't necessarily mean that all cash cows are exploits. Not at all. There are some very good and properly legit ways to make some decent money. Probably not the kind of money that's in Raya, or was in Raya until the O2 patch, but certainly, certainly decent amounts. But if you have places like Quince and leave them for too long, like I believe Frontier did, I think they left it too long, and I still don't think they've patched it up properly, but we're going to come to that. And if you open up places like Raya, or have them exist and don't fix them up quickly, which Frontier did, then commanders are going to get spoiled. And they're going to get used to making tons of money. So that when they address the actual mission boards themselves, they're going to look at it and say, this is peanuts. I'm used to making this much Why am I now only able to make this much? This is too much of a grind, and some people will say, some people even say I'm done with the game, or Frontier's gone the wrong way. So, has Frontier gone the wrong way? Is it all messed up right now? I'm going to say it is. And I'll try and address that later when I talk about the mission boards. But I want to clear up a couple of things before I really get going here. There's a couple of things I want to really clear up. One of them, two of them, is things that people say on. I've noticed it on the forums, because I spend most of my time in the forums when I'm not. Let me rephrase that. When in the Elite Dangerous related world, when I'm not playing the game, I'm in the forums or making my own YouTube video. I might watch a couple here and there, but I haven't watched anybody else's YouTube videos for a while. Certainly not since. Well, I have watched a couple, but I haven't watched anything that spoils the game. In terms of the Thargoids and stuff like that, I didn't want anything spoiled for me, so I kind of wanted to keep away. So, yeah, I haven't really frequented YouTube too much. And in the forums, I see a lot of phrases repeated over and over and over again. And it's just getting tiring now. Because I think people are misunderstanding things that are being said or trying to be said by people who are in favour of having the exploits removed. Some people aren't. Some people think they should stay. Some people think that when a bug is fixed, that's a naughty thing that FDev have done, and that FDev should not have fixed that bug. An example of that being the multi-spawning bases, which was fixed in the O2 patch. That was a bug, and that got fixed. That was not a nerf. Quince didn't get nerfed there; it got fixed, and people were complaining about it. Oh yeah, it's the same when Quince had, I don't really want to delve into Quince yet, but when Quince had the local passenger missions and they weren't working as intended, that was broken altogether. They didn't get fixed, but they got removed. So I don't know if you would class that as a nerf or not. I've kind of considered a nerf to be something that exists, and then after the nerf, it still exists, but not in the same form as it used to. Probably a reduced form of what it used to be. So, for example, if you have a frag cannon and it hits a shield, it makes X amount of damage. And then Frontier come along and say, that's too much. We only want the frag cannon to make this amount of damage. That's a nerf. If you remove the frag cannon altogether from the game, is that still a nerf? Or is it just more of a removal? I don't know. I've always considered a nerf to be a reduction of something. Sorry, just something something I can't say on the stream, on the video, just went through my head there. But yeah, so that's the way I define it. If I'm wrong, let me know. I probably should look it up. So anyway, back to these things to clear up. Phrases that people say on the forums a lot. Number one, along these lines. Just play it your way and let people play it their way. Okay, so one of the things with Elite Dangerous is play it your way. So that's a fair comment. Play it your way and let people play it their way. That seems to be a reasonable a reasonable method to go by. Got no problems with that. But the context it's being used in is not correct. Because as soon as somebody points out an exploit and says, this needs fixing or that needs fixing, this is when this thing pops in. Play it your way and let people play it their way. Now, what are you saying there? Are you saying that we should ignore the exploits just because they're profitable? Really? The exploit is the issue here. It's not the people. The people, if there are cash cows, the people are going to go there. It's a natural reaction. Some people who maybe feel themselves to be a bit more, I don't know, that they want to play the game the right way, for example, and so they won't do the exploits just because that's not the way they want to play. So not every commander goes there, but a lot of people do, because a lot of people see that credits is the game, and I don't think it is. It's a big part of the game. It is a part of the game, but it's not the be all and end all. And in reality, no one is telling you how you should be playing it. I've never once seen a post on the forums where someone is saying, hey, this is how you should play. Not that way. And no one is saying, you should play the game the way I play the game. No one said that. I've not seen it. And if anyone did say it, to me, I would say, get stuffed, basically. Because that's as far as I can go on the forum without getting banned. But no. Yeah, so, yeah. And like, for example, I couldn't say that to somebody else. Because asking someone to play it my way is ridiculous. Because I don't even know what my way is. Maybe Frank Sinatra can tell me. I don't know. I'm all over the place. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm getting this. And commanders are all at different levels to me. Some are newbies. Some are working their way up. Some are nearly at my level. Some are above my level. And some are very much above my level in terms of how many hours they've played. How good they are at combat. Whether they're triple elite, their ranks, their alliedness. I screwed that up. Their alliedness with different stations. They're all at different stages. They're all doing different things. Some people are out there exploring and have been out there for months. So if I'm here and I'm spending 2 weeks in a Haz-Res or a combat conflict zone, I'm not going to say play it my way to an explorer. No one's telling you how to play it their way. All right? I think we need to really get that straight. There's a world of difference between stating your opinion on how you think it should be played, or maybe even giving ideas on how you think it should be played, but how you think it should be played. In other words, exploit-free. There's a whole world of difference between saying that and telling someone how to play. It's night and day difference, and some people, I think, don't seem to differentiate that. And so we're getting this repeated play it your way and let people play it their way cry on the forums. The other one is kind of similar. It's the why do you care how other people play the game if it doesn't affect you? There's that one. So again, I would ask, are you saying that it's okay for people to exploit the game? And should we ignore the exploits just because they're profitable? It's the same question. Now, exploits themselves, isn't that, if it's defined as taking advantage of unintended game mechanics for personal gain, isn't that then cheating to an extent? I'm not going to label this as cheating. I'm going to label it as exploiting, because for me, cheating is on a different level. Cheating is because being a commander that uses exploits is exactly what I defined it. It's you taking advantage of unintended, what we perceive to be unintended gameplay mechanics for your own personal gain. In this case, your wealth. But cheating, I reserve for those who use scripts to give themselves undefeatable shields or hull, or people that can move their ship around in the game from outside of the game. That's cheating. That's cheating, and I will frown upon each and every one of them. You know, whether it affects me or not. Whether it affects me or not. Even if it doesn't affect me. You know, you're a cheat and I frown upon you. I frown upon you. So it's all more a matter of caring that the game isn't broken and that unintended gameplay mechanics are fixed. That's pretty much what it's about. It's not about caring about how other people play. You know, if Commander Fred Blogs goes out and makes, I don't know, say 20 million in an hour doing something, and he's got, I don't know, 2 cutters and a corvette, I don't care. Think of how many commanders there are out there playing the game. Imagine how much effort and mental stress it would take for me to care about all of those players. I really don't care. No, if it doesn't affect me, I'm not bothered. But I don't think people should be playing the exploits. And it's not a case of, well, it's up to them, it's their game, they paid for it. That's not the point. I mean, I see what you're saying when you say that, but all I'm concerned about really is that the exploit is fixed. And the side effect of that, I guess, is going to mean that you can't do those exploits. So, too bad. You know, I can't really have any sympathy in that respect. You know, and I see people on the forums having a little whinge about, you know, exploits being fixed and whatnot because, oh, now Quince is boring, now all I've got left is the grind. Well, got some news for you. That's the excuse people use to justify playing the exploits. Is because they don't like the grind, or, yeah, the grind isn't paying out enough. So, the news that I've got for you is that Elite Dangerous is the grind. That's what it is. I wrote a post on the forum, which I'm going to try and find for you. And I'll put a link into it. And I'm going to try and find it. I think I've got it right here. Okay, I'm going to read you out this post. And I was responding to somebody who'd made a comment saying, if the game was locked in rare state, in other words, if all the passenger missions on all the stations were paying out the same as rare, if the game was locked in a rare state, I'd be happy. I wonder if more people would be happy in rare. This is written badly. Wonder if more people would be happy in rare state or after as it is now. So I was a little bit snipey with him. And I said, of course you'd be happy because you're making over 100 million an hour. But the problem is that if every commander was earning that, playing the game, i.e. like playing the game that's in front of you, the game that's been presented to you, if every commander was earning that in the game, credits would essentially be pointless and almost redundant, because they'd be devalued beyond belief. And if you remove the need for more credits, because everyone's now filthy rich, so they don't need to go looking for credits because they've all got 5-6 billion in their bank account, then why not have everything for free? You might as well just start the game over and let's have everything for free. All the ships, all the modules, all free. But you can't, because if you do that, then the game kind of collapses, because people aren't going to do free missions. They're not going to do combat in CZs and Hazrases for free. They're not going to scan planets during exploration for free. They'll do it for the ranking up, the initial ranking up to the three triple elite ranks. But after that, then what? Go and try and kill an unkillable Thargoid. So, as I said, I think FDev took far too long zapping Quince, as I wrote, and I'm still not convinced it's properly patched. I'll outline the two reasons very quickly. Planetary scan missions shouldn't complete after you scan them, and also you should fail the missions if you get destroyed or you suicide your ship. So, getting back to this grind thing, what people are calling the grind should actually be called what it really is: gameplay. Elite is a grind game. And, I think people just need to accept that it is. That's what it is. It's not like a game where, you play it for 20 hours and you get all the achievements and then you off you go. And people are saying, oh, I can only enjoy the game once I've got the big ships. No, that's complete BS. I had more fun working my way up to the big ships than I do now in the big ships. I remember my journey up, going up through all my, from the Sidewinder to the Vet, and the journey upwards was brilliant. I did all sorts, and I did use a couple of exploits, but they were different ones at the time. They weren't anything like Quince. It was there was no limit on the amount of missions you could stack, so that helped. And then, of course, that thing where you could multi-complete missions by doing one action, that was in play as well at the time. So I did a little bit of that, but that was just to grind up on my Empire ranking. So, yeah, I mean, Elite is a grind game, and you have to put time into it. Now, that being said, we can debate if the grind is too slow, or too quick, or just right. But it can't be denied that the gameplay of Elite essentially is the grind, because you have trading, exploring, and combat, ranking up, gaining rep, collecting materials for engineers. And not to mention, of course, the random number generation. So you have to accept that is the grind. It's not really like meant for shortcuts. It's like you couldn't join the army and just, instead of spending years and years and years and years getting promoted and promoted and promoted and eventually becoming a major or a colonel, no one's going to say when you're a private and going, hey, there's a shortcut. If you do this, this, and this, you can become a major. Okay, fine, now I'm a major. Where's my experience? I got nothing. Where's the journey up from that I haven't experienced it? And it's all a little bit shallow, and you kind of lose it because you lose that, because you only get one chance at it, really. I mean, yes, you could say, okay, well, I know what I'll do. I'll grind up, I'll buy five anacondas, have a play around, have some fun, and then I'll reset my game save. But it's not going to be the same the second time round, because you've had the money, you've had the ships. You might enjoy the journey up if you do it properly the next time, but you kind of been used to doing it one way. How patient are you going to be, really? And when it comes to places like Quince and Raya, I find it amusing and a little bit ironic from people who spent day in and day out farming Quince and other cash cow places, day in, day out, doing the same thing. But they say they're having fun. You know, why can't you leave us alone and, you know, we're having fun. This is another cliche thing that's appearing. Fun. We're having fun. And then you get things like, oh, there's no fun now that Quince and Ray are dead. Back to the grind. Well, in case you hadn't realised, Quince and Raya were grinds. But I think you probably only labelled it as fun because you were making loads of money. So if you only find fun in making money, or credits, I think your experience in the game is going to be pretty superficial. Again, up to you. I'm not telling you how to play it. It's my opinion. Yeah. I mean, I know the journey I took. I think it took me a year to get my anaconda. And I really felt I'd earned it. I wasn't going after one particularly. I was really after the python on my way up. I had my eyes dead set on that python, and it took me a while to earn, what was it, 52 million to buy it? And then I realised I didn't have enough credits to fit it out decently, so I had to get back in the small ship. I can't remember what it was at the time. It might have been a vulture or something. And I had to go out and, you know, earn more credits so I could build up the python slowly but surely. But it took days and weeks, and you know. And after about a year, I think it was, I got my anaconda. But in that time, I'd done rares trading, exploration, standard normal trading, smuggling, bounty hunting, did Rabigo, which I think was brilliant. Not an exploit, by the way. Yeah, it was fantastic. I really enjoyed some of it. And there was no engineers back then. There was no power play back then. And I'm guessing for a new commander coming into the game now, it's probably a whole different experience, because now you have the engineers. So you can just be in a Sidewinder and stick yourself a little... Can you put a planetary... Yeah, you can. Yeah, of course you can. Put an SRV in your Sidewinder and pick up some materials and go and get some engineer upgrades really early on in the game. It's a whole different process now. In terms of how the mission boards are now compared to what they were, I don't know whether it's worse now, because I don't recall any missions going 22,000 light years away. But I always found that the mission structure was kind of okay. Right now, the mission boards, I think it's a little bit of a mess, and I think some of it's okay, but I think it's just imbalanced. So, yeah. Anyway, so just getting back to this, if you... there's also people that say, well, you know, I don't have a lot of time to play Elite. I can only play a few hours a week because of real life and blah, 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 blah. Well, okay. You know, I guess that's the same with any game. Some of us have got more time to play the games than other people. And that's just reality. That's just life. Some people have families and jobs and, you know, well, I've got a job, but, you know, I don't have kids or anything. because if I did, I'd be pushing them off the computer anyway. Off the chair anyway. But yeah, so I get that. You can get players who can sit down and put, I don't know, what's an unreasonable amount of time to put in a week? 60 hours, let's say. Let's say 70. 10 hours a day. That's ridiculous. There's probably people doing that, but forget that. 60 hours a week. Okay? And there's probably some people who can only maybe put 6 hours a week in. And that is the reality of things. However, just because you don't have a lot of time to play the game, it doesn't mean that you're entitled to big money payouts. Because it doesn't really help you catch up, although I don't know what you're catching up to, because everybody else has got the big money payouts as well. Although if you're a billionaire, maybe what's big money for you isn't big money for them. And this is where the scaling problem creeps in. But Elite Dangerous, to me, wasn't designed for the short term. It's not a game that I would buy thinking, okay, I'll spend 6 months playing this and I'll move on. I knew going into Premium Beta or Alpha, wherever it was when I joined, I knew that wasn't going to be the case. I knew that once I started playing this, if I got into the game, I knew I was in it for years. I knew that from the outset. So I kind of figured that the progress would be, like that. It would take weeks, it would take months to achieve maybe the next rank or, the next. I mean, it took me ages to earn my first million. At least it seemed that way. My little Sidewinder, then I had a little Eagle. And when I made my first million, I felt on top of the world. I thought, wow, $1 million. I never dreamed I would have over 1 billion credits, And I've spent, I think I've got about 1,600 and something hours in the game. And I know there are people with far, far more than I've got who've perhaps been playing it less than I have. Or they joined the game later than me. But how many hours you have in a week to play the game isn't really Frontier's problem. It's just not a short-term game. And if you can't put in the same time as others, why do you think you should be entitled or able to progress at a similar rate? Because I've seen a few posts from people who kind of give me that impression that that's what they want. I can't put so many hours in, so I want to be able to, earn loads of money and shoot up the ladder. Because, I'm not like other people who can put 30, 40, 50 hours a week in. So it's not fair on me. Well, I can't really agree. I think it is fair. If people are putting in more time in the game, then it's only logical that they're going to progress further and faster. Elite was meant to be progressed in, played in over a long time. Years, not weeks. And yeah, that's where I stand on that. So, taking a look more directly now at 2.4. So 2.4 introduced the Thargoids. And I did a live stream last week where I teamed up with 3 other commanders and we took on some Thargoids, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I haven't been playing Elite a lot lately because I've been a bit, I don't want to say disillusioned with it, but sort of. I was sort of losing my mojo with it. Quince was partly to blame, I think, for that, because knowing that these places exist and weren't being touched, it kind of it didn't sit well with me, and I thought, screw this. But 2.4 comes along, Thargoids are there, and we took them on, and it was fun. I expected it all to be scripted, scripted gameplay, and it kind of is. But, the second Thargoid you face, it's more or less going to be almost the same as the first. Some of them are more aggressive than others, which is a good randomness that they've introduced. But the fact that at least initially people weren't taking them on their own. I think it was great that you needed, at least I thought you needed, a wing. I think some of the really skilled players are now doing them on their own, or were, which is incredible. I mean, I'd like to see a video of that. Maybe there's one out there that I haven't seen. But, if there's a commander out there that's taking a Thargoid down on his own before the O2 patch came out, then yeah, I full admiration for that one, because there was 4 of us, but it was fantastic, and I actually had a little bit of an adrenaline rush. It was exciting. There was one time, if you see the live stream, I know it's 5 hours, but if you see the live stream, I think 38 minutes in, something like that, I'm heading back with damage. My ship's got corrosive damage, so the hull is disintegrating as I'm flying, and I just made it at this. Oh, I just made it. I actually landed on the launch pad with 0% hull. It was that damn close. I tell you, it was amazing. Even if I'd blown up, I would have thought it was fantastic. Oh God, it was so good. And then it was in, repair, out, back to the Thargoid, and carrying on. Fantastic. And then at the end of the stream, the same thing. I sat there in the corrosive cloud like a bloody idiot. Didn't engage so that cost me time. Then I didn't engage my super cruise when I thought I already had. So that was another 10-15 seconds wasted. And that resulted in me getting back into the station with my hull disintegrating again. And I was about 10-15 feet away from landing, and my ship blew up. And I thought it was great. I didn't go, oh, damn, I've lost a ship. No, it was brilliant. The Thargoid beat me on that one. He didn't beat me on the previous one, but we did kill 3 of them. So it was fantastic gameplay. I haven't been back and done any since that stream, because I've been wanting to go and pick up credits here and there by doing some small passenger missions. Not rare. I've been in and around places like Aranaga, Akandi, Shinrata Desra, Kungi. Where else have I been landing? Oh, what's the other place? Nunitz. So those kind of places. Not been making a huge amount, but just bits and pieces. Just to make back a couple of the rebuys, I think, and to have a bit extra cash in hand to be able to pay for the rebuys of my ship and still keep my balance above 1 billion. So yeah, I was just doing that for a while. Now that's some of the good stuff that came in 2.4. Obviously, like I said, the galaxy map is fantastic with the plotting being 20,000 light years now. Your last fuel star, it now shows your previous route, so you can see the places you've just come from. You know, it's really good. Some nice features in there that, you know, you can ask yourself, why is it just come in there now? Why are we just seeing this now? Yeah, it's good. And then the O2 patch dropped. Now, since the O2 patch dropped, a lot of people are complaining about, oh, you know, it's 600,000 credits to go to to take passengers to Colonia. This is pathetic, blah, 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 blah. But those missions were there before the O2 patch. Those missions have been like that since 2.4 beta. And certainly since 2.4 itself was released. So the O2 patch didn't change that. It may have changed certain mission reward values, but I'm still seeing missions asking me to take people to Colonia and places such as that for less than $1 million. And even with stacking 20 missions, I don't know who's going to do that. So those missions on the board, as far as I can see, are a complete and utter waste of time. They're just padding. They're just taking up space. They might as well be empty boxes. If you stack 20, you're going to make, what, 17 million? And you've got to go 22,000 light years there, and then either, yeah, you've got to come 22,000 light years back. You can't self-destruct, because once you've landed to drop the passengers off, that's where you'll respawn if you blow up. So it's a 44,000 light year trip for 17 million, 16 million. Who's doing that? It's a mess. So missions need to be the mission board has some nice features on it now that it's got more. I'm not going to say more variety, because I see a lot of repeated missions. Mining, boom, 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 mining, boom, boom, mining. And it's like, it's too repetitive. It's not diverse enough, but there are more missions, which again, I guess highlights that problem even more so. But the mission payouts are all over the place. Quince was paying out 2.5 million to nip next door and come back. You didn't even have to come back. You could blow your ship up. You still can. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You know, this thing where you can, I don't know if I mentioned it in this video already now, but this thing where you can scan these bases and then it says mission complete. No, it's not complete. Unless, of course, the data's being beamed straight from your SRV back to the station, but then just bring your own ship down. No, you should have to take the data back to the station and hand it in. So, when you scan the data ports at Quince, the data point at Quince, it should say, well done, Commander, or mission updated, well done, Commander, thank you. Bring the data back to the station and collect your reward. And then you have to fly back and hand the missions in. That's what should happen. Not mission complete after the scan. What's that all about? Because now people, yeah, they suicide their ships. You know, and I think if your ship gets blown up before you get back to the station, whether you do it yourself or somebody else does it, the missions should fail. You know, it's ridiculous having them complete from there. And I think the same from years ago. Skimmer missions or whatever. You could do these missions, scan something. You could scan skimmers from your ship at one point. And then it would just say, and it would just come up and go, you know, mission complete, mission complete, mission complete. The only missions that should complete without coming back to the station are things like boom time delivery missions because it's a delivery, passenger missions because you're transporting them from A to B. But, you know, missions that say, please scan the data point and fetch me the data, it should not complete at the base. It should complete when you get back. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so the mission board is messed up in that Quince will offer you $2.5 million to do that mission, which is a piece of cake and quick, and yet you're being offered, I don't know, so much less, 500, 600,000 to take some passengers to Colonia. It's all over the place, guys, really, and I'm talking to the devs now. The missions, and also I think in Raya, or at least forget Raya, in passenger missions, a change was made so that the amount you were paid was based on, this is a really strange one for me, how far the station was away from the local star. The further away it was, the more you got paid. Well, why? That's just Super Cruise. Just sit and wait. It takes longer, it takes longer. What it should be is you get paid the more distance you travel. So if a passenger wants to go to Colonia, then he damn well pays for it. If I got in a taxi and said, you know, take me 10 minutes down the road, I'd have to pay a small amount, £5 or £10, whatever. But if I said, you know, take me to the south of France, what's he gonna say? Oh, that's £2.50, please. I don't bloody think so. So come on, if you want me to take passengers to Colonia, I want multi-millions for that. I'm not going to Colonia and back for anything less than a few hundred million, 200-300 million minimum. If a passenger wants to go, because it seems passengers either want to go 22,000 light years or 14 light years. There's nothing to be in between. The only time you take passengers further out is if you're going sightseeing. But you never get, somebody, I'm in Bunda, which is just next door to Shanata Desra. Can you please take me to Maya, to Obsidian Orbital? Take me there. Okay, it's 400 light years. Okay, that's going to be 5 million or 2.5 million, something reasonable. It should be with distance, the actual destination distance, not the station distance when you jump in. That's silly. And perhaps even the mission, yes, it should. The mission board should factor in your wealth, your current wealth. Now, I'm aware that is not a logical thing to do, really, because if you look at bulletin boards where people say, let's say you get a real classified ad. Somebody say, oh, I want a man with a van to come and move some furniture from my house to my new house. I'll pay them £300. Now, whoever goes to do that is getting paid £300. If I'm a millionaire and I go, she's going to pay me £300. She's not going to say, well, look, as you're a millionaire, here's 30,000. So there's no logic in what I'm about to say. But in terms of gameplay, and trying to maybe balance the grind a little bit better, if you're a billionaire, then I think that should be recognized, and the mission payout should be a little bit higher than what it would be if you've only got 100 million. I'm not saying that the payout should be 10 times as much, but I think it should be taken into account. There should be a certain percentage factored in, because once you get to 1 billion, 2 billion, everything on the mission board is pretty much meaningless unless you're able to stack a load of them and make a load of money. So, for example, let's say Quince was operative and you could make 70 million an hour. Now, to someone like me who's got 1 billion credits, 70 million an hour is pretty good. It's not bad. I think it's quite generous, actually. You know, if I was able to make 50 million an hour with 1 billion in the bank, I'd be pretty happy with that. But if I've got less than that, if I've got 300 million or something like that, and I can make 70 million an hour, it's kind of a bit overpowering at that point. So I think it should be based on your own wealth as well. Now then, I'm going to cover, I think, just one more thing, because you're probably sick of hearing me dribble on. And I'm going to give somebody some credit here, because, like I said, I do traipse through the forums quite a bit. And somebody in the forums made a post that potentially would repair or fix situations like Rhea and Quince. And it might take a bit of pressure and stress off Frontier, who are trying to fix things and trying to keep people happy at the same time. It's a thankless task, I'm sure. Commander Han Zulu, 2 words, Commander Han Zulu, made a post and said it would be really cool if the mission system self-balanced based on how many players are taking the certain missions. For example, or for instance, if missions to Colonia is never done by anyone, then the system would automatically increase the prices. Now that's fine, but you have to have a cap on that. You can't have them going to some crazy stratospheric price just because no one's taking the missions on. So, kind of like it would be done in real life, he says. So what he's getting at here is a background system that auto-nerfs itself based on how many people are doing it, because there's less demand. So I think we saw about 55,000 ships going into Rhea when the thing was announced on Reddit. So we had like 55,000 ships going into. Now, once you've got so many commanders doing these missions, they should start to auto-devalue. This is what he was getting at. And I thought, so then if people all disappear and go away because it's you know, you've got to get in early, basically. And the more people that get in early, the quicker it drops. The quicker the rewards drop because the more people are doing it. And then as people dissipate, you know, they'll level out for a bit and then perhaps the prices will go up again. And then it's a question of finding places in the bubble that haven't been touched yet that are still offering really good prices. And by default, the less people that you tell about it or that know about it, the more you're going to profit off it. The more that know about it, the less profitable it's going to become. And it's an auto-correcting system. And I think it's genius. I do. Maybe there are holes in that system, and if there are, please leave a comment. I think that is genius. Like, why, to me, maybe I'm not seeing something. Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know. But all I can think right now is, why the hell haven't Frontier seen this already? It's fantastic. It kind of works. It fixes so many issues. And if a cash cow does come up, or even an exploit raises its head, it'll take care of itself. Boom, done. Now, you can say, well, okay, if people want to go to Colonia and they're only offering 600,000 for them, and nobody's going to take these passengers because it's like, what are you, crazy? I'm not going there for that money. So then they, okay, I'll offer you this, I'll offer you this, I'll offer you that, and the prices start to climb. But they've got to be capped. You know, like I said, you know, I'd go for 300 million. Not for one mission, of course. I'm talking about stacking maybe, you know, 10, 15 missions, whatever it takes to fill my ship up. And I wouldn't be going in a beluga either, because all these nice luxury ships don't have the jump range. You'd have to do it in an Anaconda. So you could do it in a beluga, of course. You can do it in whatever you like, but you know, for time. But you wouldn't want people saying, okay, I'll give you, I don't know, 60, 70 million to take me. Because people wouldn't start offering 700,000 and then going up to 70 million for a start. That's ridiculous. But you know, just have a minimum cap and a maximum cap, and let it auto fluctuate between those two caps. Make the high cap, you know, quite profitable and really, you know, a good earner, and make the low cap to the point where people are starting to go, this isn't worth it anymore. And in between, the system is auto-correcting itself based on how many people are doing these missions, because it's what do you call it, supply and demand. So they'd have to be capped. And you could apply that to not all mission types, but all sorts of different mission types. Planetary scan missions, massacre missions, you know, passenger missions to close by beacons, stuff like that. They could apply to so many different missions. So, and it would work. It could work on a minor faction basis. So that means that if missions for a particular minor faction are all being taken, then their prices are going to drop, but it wouldn't necessarily affect the next minor faction on the mission board. Their prices aren't going to drop until passengers from that minor faction. So if you've got players coming along taking missions from every minor faction, then they're all going to start being affected. But if you have a commander that comes along and only takes them from one, doesn't affect the others, then maybe another commander can come along and take them from the other one, you see. But it takes more time for them to be affected. So yeah, I think this auto-correcting system is absolute genius, and I hope Frontier see that post and at least ponder it, at least give it some thought, because it seems okay to me. If they make the mission board where passenger missions are paying out based on their destination, paying out based on your rank or your rep with the minor faction, perhaps a little percentage added in there, sprinkled in there based on your wealth, your current wealth, and the missions would scale correctly. The same with the actual mission board itself, not the passenger board, but the mission board. Same thing applies. You know, if you want me to take cargo 400 light years, then you're going to pay me more than you are for me to take cargo next door. It stands to reason. And where are the long haul missions now, like Rubigo? Rubigo was fantastic, but that got completely nerfed. And I think I've said it before, Rubigo shouldn't have been nerfed. It should have been made more of a challenge. I want to see smuggling missions in the game that are challenging, where you fail if you're scanned, you have feds coming at you in wings. Because in the old days of Rubigo, it would be a case where you'd have somebody coming after you, maybe interdicting you. Perhaps you evade the interdiction. Sometimes you could, sometimes you couldn't. But then as soon as you jumped into the next system, before you even got to fuel scoop, you were interdicted. And it was scary because you were in the heat of the sun. It was a bit illogical because it was like, well, how did they know what system I was going to jump to next? You know, how did that work? So that was a bit weird. So again, you're sacrificing a bit of logic for a bit of gameplay, which, yeah, now and again it's okay to do that, I think. But I would like to have seen Robigo being a bit more challenging, because once people got the idea of how to avoid the scans by just allowing themselves to be interdicted, turning the ship around and firing at the fed vessel, because as soon as you fired on it, it would stop the scan and bring its hard points out, and then you just boosted away and disappeared, and the scan never completed. But of course then you have to get into the station without being scanned, and you never knew if you were going to make it, if you were going to do it. It's silent running, heat sinks, you had to be on the ball. And yeah, I think you should have pirates coming after you, perhaps bounty hunters if you're wanted for being a smuggler or whatever, feds coming after you. It should be a challenge, and you should get paid well for missions that have more higher risk, and you should get paid well for transporting dodgy cargo long distances. It used to be 400 light years, Robigo. It used to be 400 light years to take your stuff back. But now that we have engineered FSDs and stuff, perhaps it could be even more. Perhaps you pick them up from Robigo and take them to the other side of the bubble, which means you've got to clear a path all the way through the bubble. Or you could perhaps go all the way around it. I wouldn't want to do that, though. Go all the way through, and it's a hell of a challenge. And you might fail. And you've gone 600-700 light years, perhaps, for nothing. So that's the risk. That's the game. Anyway, I think I've covered enough. I think I've talked enough. I'm certain my throat is certainly dry enough. So yeah, Quince is just to summarize. Quince right now is kind of half fixed. I mean, okay, it's been squashed pretty well, but it's not a question of, even if people couldn't make money in Quince anymore, decent money, even if they couldn't, even if Quince financially was finished, I would still say the same thing. I would still say that the mission should only complete when you make it back to the station. And and I still would say that they shouldn't pay out $2.5 million just to jump next door and come back in 10 minutes. Because that economy doesn't fit in with the rest of the mission board in other places. Of course, it's going to be different in different systems. You've got some systems in boom, you've got some systems that are going bust. So you're going to get different economies. Fine. You're going to get places that are thriving and paying well. That's all good stuff. That's all good stuff. I would expect to go to a tourist system that's in boom state and pick up healthy passenger missions. More so than I would if I went to an industrial system and just dropped in to get some passengers. That was not in a boom, an industrial system that wasn't in a boom state. I would expect to be more lucrative in a boom state system that's geared towards tourism. I don't know whether that's the case or not, though. So the mission boards they just need a rehash, really. The payouts are too low, at least for me, and other people who have billions, whether they've earned it ethically. I don't know how that's going to open a can of worms, or whether they've earned it exploiting. Regardless, there's a lot of wealthy players in the system, and there's nothing much for them to do on the mission boards unless, they find these big payout places and stack them. But, it's not the case that things should be rushed. Sometimes things should take time. It should take weeks maybe to get to your next rank, or maybe, it might take a month for you to be, 2 months, 3 months for you to earn enough money to buy a Python. That's just the way it is. It's the way the game is. It's a long-term game, and I think the more people that look at it that way, the more you'll see that, or I would hope you will see that the game exploits and the cache shortcuts are really not good for the game. Anyway, so that's enough from me. You probably won't want to hear from me on a Friday live stream. So please leave comments in the comment section. Where else? I'm going to say like and subscribe if you want to. And yeah, have fun out there. Play the game. Play the game. Don't play the you know what I mean. Play the game. Enjoy it. Play the game that you were given and enjoy it. It's like, I'm talking to the more newer commanders. The veterans, you're beyond hope, you people. I'm just kidding. Yeah. To the new guys, steer away from the exploits, guys. Just play the game. I guarantee you will enjoy the journey more. You will not regret it. Because if I'd come up through the ranks and, you know, got myself wealthy by sitting in Quince for 2 months, I think I would at some point in the game realise that it wasn't the right way to do it, and I would regret it. And you can't take it back then. I can reset my save, but it's not the same. I'm not saying that the game that's in front of you, the exploit-free game, is ideal right now. I've just spent over an hour talking about that, I think, of how the mission board needs to be improved. The grind needs to be made a little bit more. They have to optimize that so that there's a reasonable progression, no matter whether you're a new guy or whether you're a veteran of the game with 1, 2, 3 billion in the bank. There has to be something for all of us, and if you scale the mission board correctly and implement some kind of auto-correcting system for cash cows and perhaps exploitative systems, if there are any out there, then I don't know. I personally envisage a better game. So, oh yeah, and of course, I'm going to mention one more thing. What the hell was this? These AX missiles nerf. What the hell was that? Guys, Frontier, why? What? The thing is, that kind of backfired, I think. It looks to me. Here we have AX missiles with a damage value of 0.1. Wasn't it? Was it 0.1 or 0.01? 0.1? Something, whatever. And the four of us were out chasing these Thargoids. It would take people between 30 minutes and an hour to blow one up, depending on your skill levels, depending on your ships. But it was phenomenally fun. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And now, a few days later, these AX missiles, which we've just bought, you know, just took the wrapper off, and now the missiles have been nerfed by 50 times. 50 times less power. And 50? I mean, if you'd said 5, I would have said, well, all right, it's just going to mean that we're going to have to spend longer killing a Thargoid. 50? I haven't taken on a Thargoid since that thing. I'm probably going to try it on my live stream with the guys that I played with last week. But wow. The problem then is they said that the Thargoids had adapted to our weapons. Really? So surely then, shouldn't the Thargoids have been buffed? Because if they've adapted to our weapons, then our weapons would still be the same. How have they adapted? By poisoning all the batch of AX missiles so that they're not as effective anymore? No, you've done it the wrong way around. You buff the Thargoid and leave the missiles. The only way I can think that the reason that they've done this is because perhaps this new weapon that's coming along, this multi-cannon thing or whatever it is going to be much more powerful than the AX missiles, and so will maybe rebalance things a little bit. But even in that case, the AX missiles are going to be so underpowered, are they not? Or maybe if you have them, like if you have a federal dropship like me, I can have 4 missile racks, and on the large one I can have this large multi-cannon. Maybe that's going to work, I don't know. But either way, they got it the wrong around. The Thargoids didn't adapt. It was our missiles that got nerfed. So that was a backfire. And secondly, I haven't tried it yet. I haven't taken on a Thargoid, but it seems to me that a sudden times 50 drop in the power is crazy. Unless, of course, the missiles, when they were first released, were way too overpowered. Now, considering how long it took us to take down Thargoids and had to go back and restock ammo and come back because we were running out, it didn't seem overpowered to me. It seemed at a pretty damn good level, and I thought, Frontier have got this pretty right here, because we didn't see any Thargoid stuff in the beta. It came out with minimal testing, I would imagine, compared to a public test, and it seemed like everything was working pretty well. So I don't understand that either. So yeah, up to 2.402, some things have been sorted, some things are just not right. And I hope it gets sorted pretty soon. So with that, I bid you all farewell. I wish you a good time out in the void. Have fun and take it easy. And I will catch you on the next one. Bye bye.